What is up, everybody? Today we'll be doing a little bit of a Vel'Koz guide. I'll be going over a few different things, such as items, runes, and some general tricks that you can use for your own gameplay. I won't be going over specifics such as mid lane, support, ADC, what to do in the different things. I'll touch on it briefly with items and runes and such. If there's any differences, I'll make sure to mention it. And yeah, let's get on with the video. So, first things first here. What kind of runes do you want to take? That's what you gotta figure out before you even get into the game. Personally, I like to go Comet, Mana Flow, Transcendence, Scorch, into Legend Haste, and Cut Down. And on stats, I like going double AP and health. The health, I'll go either base health, just from beginning, or scaling health. That depends. I go scaling health if I'm mid lane, but base health if I'm ADC or support. So, for items, what do you want to do for items here? There's a lot of great options. There are. For mid lane and ADC, I personally like starting Ludens. It's great. It's a lot of damage. For support, I'll usually go Shirley's as my first item. But if you have a hard time with active items, you can also just start Ludens on support. It's not terrible at all. I actually did it. I still do it every now and again. I feel like I need that extra damage, so it's still fine. But most of the time, you want to go Chevaliers if you are on support. Next up, we'll be looking at our second item. That doesn't change at all. No matter what, you always want to be going. Where is it? Horizon Focus. Horizon Focus works great with Vel'Koz. It procs both off his Q and his E very easily. And it then amplifies the damage you do afterwards. The thing with Vel'Koz is that you don't do one tick of damage. There's always something that follows it up. We'll be going into that later when I talk about combos. But yeah, no, great item. Always go with this item second. Third item, Shadow Flame. Always Shadow Flame. No matter what. No matter the role, always Shadow Flame. Third, for our fourth item, it's a Rabba. Time for the Rabba down. This item can be very hard to buy as a support as you don't have as much gold, but you can spend that meantime getting control wards. You have those a little cheaper. So yeah, Rabadon's fourth, and that's it for the support. But of course, for mid lane or ADC, you have another item where I then like to go either Void Staff or Crypt Bloom. Depends on how much magic resist they have. If they have a lot of magic resist, I personally prefer Void Staff, but usually, almost always, Crypt Bloom is the better option. Cooldown reduction works very well in Vel'Koz, being able to proc your passive multiple times and such. For the very last item, if you're going ADC, I usually drop a Sonius or a Banshees in there. Sometimes I'll do it a little earlier. No earlier than the third item, never. That's the earliest you can go it, but try to fit one of those in there as well. For boots, no matter what, always I go Lucidity boots. This is because Vel'Koz does true damage with his ultimate. I'll get into it later, but you just don't get the full value out of the sorcery shoes. So personally, Ionic boots, they're just better, in my opinion, because you can practice multiple times and such. Always go it, no matter what. Now, if you are going to play support Vel'Koz, I typically go for this one. I can't say the name. I typically go for this support item. This is great as well, but I personally like this one better. It's just a little more damage. You do percent max health. It just gives you a little more threat. That's it for items, guys. Let's go on to the next thing. Alright, guys. Next up, you're in lane. You're trying to poke your enemy. How do you do that? How do you actually do that? Obviously, you just want to use your Q for the poke. You want to use the W typically for the wave. Your E is only a defensive tool or a follow-up to your Q if you feel confident you can hit it. But always be careful. If the enemy has a dash, you're afraid they're gonna dash on you, you can't just, oh, I hit the Q, they're slowed, I'm gonna go for, oop, they dash in your face, you're dead. Right? So always be careful with the E. It's Not something you just throw out. Very, very situational. For combo, typically, if you're in a bush, if you're out of sight, you can start out with the quote-unquote best combo, which will just be EWQ ultimate. And then if you're in lane, like I said earlier, you hit the Q. Now they're slowed. I had some stuff on there. Go down. You hit the Q. They're slowed. Then you walk up. EW. Very easy. That's great. And obviously, if you want to go for the all-in on that, which you often can because you do a lot of damage, you go for the Q, the EW. Oh. Well, I didn't have mana. I was like, wait, did I not? Yeah, I just didn't have mana. Yeah. Hit the ultimate. No matter what, you almost always want to start with the ultimate last, simply because your ultimate on a target like this does, you can see that it does magic damage to the blue numbers, did a little bit of true damage at the end there. As to where, if you already have your stuff proc, boom, it's true damage, all of it's true damage. So, almost always want to end off with the ultimate. Another thing to keep in mind, guys, your passive proc is true damage as well as your ultimate after you proc the passive. This means magic pin is worse. So we wait with the magic pin till later in the game, or when it's just the best option with void staff at the very end, or we just simply try to avoid it by buying lucidity boost. The reason I still like to buy something like Shadow Flame, even though it has magic penetration, is because it is magic pin. You know, it still does something, and then the crit when they're under 40, it's great, and it works in true damage as well. Alright, so guys, when it comes to clearing waves, the typical way that you want to do this is send your W through the minion wave and try to hit your Q on the front line. I'm a little high level now, I'm realizing, but the idea is that the minions come in, and as they're coming in, you can typically fire. You typically throw the W out like this, stop the minions so that they still get the proc, and then try to Q them, E them I mean, or Q in order to proc your passive, in order to push the wave. You'll want to be very careful when you use your E to wave clear, as it is your only defensive tool. Typically you just want to use your Q instead. This also gives you mana back when you last hit. When you last hit with your Q, as you can see my mana right now, boom, I get a little bit of mana back. It's very nice. And if you kill multiple minions with it, oh shit, they just kill multiple minions with it, you'll get minions from both of them. So you can actually get 100% of the mana back, as it gives 30 mana back per minion, and it costs 60. If you kill 3, you're actually gaining mana. So that's a nice thing to know. Another thing is, obviously, you typically don't want to use both W's on the wave to clear it, because it will not be back off cooldown as the next wave is coming in, and you won't be able to clear that. That said, sometimes you can do it if you really want that reset. Next up, I'll be showing you guys a few angles that I like to use. You can see right here, there's an enemy here behind tower. A great way to poke this guy is by throwing it alongside the wall here, like this, and then it follows up where there's nothing to dodge against. Using walls like this is great when you're playing Vel'Koz. This is like the most common one I use when I'm bot lane, poking people on the tower. You love having the enemy on the tower when you're playing Vel'Koz. It's very easy to poke them, and you can punish them trying to CS on the tower very easily. Another one that works fairly well, not as often used, is the one here. You see, I throw it through the wall, making it harder to see the Q. It will cover this area where people are typically hitting the Drake from. So if your team is trying to contest the Drake and you try to poke them down a little bit before you commit to the fight, this is great Q to throw, as it kind of hides the Q a little bit. That isn't true only for the Drake. It's something that you want to use often, very often. Typically, if you're out of vision as you're throwing the Q, and the Q is in the wall, it is almost impossible for the enemy to dodge. You want to use this all the time. It's the greatest way of poking people down. You can always try to mind game them and hit them even when they're expecting it, but You'll definitely hit the target if you do this. Another Q that is great to use if you're in the bot lane, either ADC or support. You can throw out the early Q right here on the edge, and you don't have to be exact, but you can see how it covers a lot of the area in the bush where people like to stand as you throw it out here towards the corner. And it's very typical that in bot lane you will have warded the middle bush. Neither team will push into it, but you'll both be guarding the area, not letting the enemy team into your bushes. And this bush just does a great job at doing a little bit of poke. And the mana you use on the Q, you'll gain before the main wave even gets there. You can throw out one, maybe even two Qs before the wave even gets there. Another useful tip when you're playing Vel'Koz is that the Q, or the passive, when you have it on somebody, will time out after 7 seconds. But you can reset the timer of this, you see it just went out, by either applying another ability or simply just auto-attacking. By auto-attacking the enemy, you reset the proc. You don't add another proc, but you do reset the proc. This is particularly useful early on in the game when you don't have that much cooldown, the fights are a little longer, and you're able to weave in those auto-attacks, keeping it on to get that next Q up and get that big damage. Another thing to keep in mind about your ultimate particularly is that it will proc your passive. It applies 3 stacks of your passive. 3 stacks is what's necessary to proc it. So when you're actually doing your combo here and ending it off, it will have 1 extra from the W, but you'll get those stacks up there. And so if you follow that up with something, with the ultimate, then it will continue proccing the passive. So you can proc passive multiple times on the same target. So don't just go throwing out your ultimate and try to sort of hit everyone a little bit with it. Target a single person down when you're doing it. Alright guys, that was a few very helpful little tips and tricks, but the very core of Vel'Koz is he likes to proc his passive. This means a lot of his damage comes from the passive. This also means that when he's playing level 1, he's not very strong, because proccing the passive at level 1 is almost impossible. So you typically don't want to fight level 1, but you do want to look for a little bit of poke. Level 3, you can start taking some extended fights, and this at level 6, you're actually able to go in for the kill. Really get that pressure going. So typically, look for the poke, but no more than that. You can start skirmishing at level 3, no sooner, and level 6, you really get going. Thank you all so much for watching the video. I hope I was able to help you guys out a little bit with the Vel'Koz. If this was helpful to you guys, make sure to drop a like and subscribe for more, and leave a comment if there's something else you'd like me to go in depth in. I can go more in depth with specifics on support, specifics on mid lane, specifics on ADC, trading patterns, all that sort of stuff. Let me know.